Hello there. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel, Snips by Kelly. I'm Kelly, and tonight I have a two-page layout for you that features reduplicated shapes to make backgrounds that really stand out. We're using the Reindeer Memory Scrapbooking Workshop Kit, which starts out with a 12 by 12 sticker sheet and 6 double-sided pattern papers. So I'm pulling the papers out, showing front and back of each set, and traditional greens, a little bit of pecan pie, some pool party, and traditional red for Christmas. 4 extra specialty papers that you see here, a great red dot and a pinstripe pool party. And these specialty papers are only found in the workshop kit. Then we have some coordinating cardstocks that come in the kit and some punch outs. Now I went ahead and I put the punch outs in the junk gypsy tray, and the junk gypsy tray isn't quite as full as it normally is with all of the punch outs and the bits, because the icons that are on the punch outs this time, including these craft die cuts that are punch outs, are larger this time. You can see how large the deer in the tree are and how large the titles are. So we're going to be adding some Cricut bits as some fillers. We're also adding those adhesive peppermints that I really love. So I have a little bit of a wonky hexagon here that reminds me of a star shape. And I envision some smaller images or of this very same shape coming across the background, and then using that larger wonky hexagon for a focal background element. I want to make that into a pattern paper interior. So I'm taking the negative piece from the inside of that shape and I'm cutting it, fussy cutting around it, leaving about an extra 1/8 of an inch or an extra 1/4 of an inch to be able to have something to adhere the other piece to. Now I did gut that polka dot piece because I really want to get the most out of that piece. So I gutted the frame to be able to use on another layout. And then I cut this interior piece out of the interior piece of that gutted frame that was left over. And I'm going to adhere those two pieces together to have the solid red frame out of the pattern interior. Now I'm scrapping some photos today of my friend Debbie and we took a porch pot class that's so cute. Look at the little wooden snowman. And we went to a floral place, and I love this photo of Debbie. She's such a delicate, lovely person, and then she does farm girl things, like she's just pulling the big wagon with the big heavy pots and cowgirling up there. And so I love that photo of her. But we had so much fun that day, and I love the Christmassy vibe of the photos and the lovely tree in the background with the photo ops and the cute porch pots that we made. Now I'd like to put a 4x6 and a 4x4 as the focal photos on the left page, and then I have 3 3x4 photos on the right page, and I have some of these leftover pattern paper pieces from fussy cutting that background of the wonky hexagon. And so I'm going to fussy cut around them, and I was able to get 4 smaller 2-inch hexagons out of those. And then I also cut some more hexagons on the Cricut in pecan pie, white, garden green, and let's see, pecan pie, garden green. I think that's the only colors, and the white. And then I'm using the white one to actually fussy cut some more out of pattern paper. So I'm thinking if I cut 2 inches out of the pool party and the red pattern paper and 2 inches out of the tree and the pecan pie graph paper, I'll be able to get enough hexagons out of those patterns. So I'm just going to lay those 2 2-inch pieces on top of each other so that I can fussy cut out a couple of those at the same time. Now I don't mind this kind of fussy cutting. It's super easy just to go around the curve of the hexagon and really duplicate those really fast. Now on the original design, I actually used the Cricut pen to draw the lines on the insides of those pieces. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to freehand with with a black Le Pen journaling pen on the pieces that are left. Now I have a couple wonky partial pieces, and that's okay because we're going to piece together those hexagons in the background. And so we're probably going to end up being able to use partial pieces or pieces that we weren't able to get a whole hexagon out of. Now I could have cut a ton more hexagons. We have plenty of pattern paper, but this layout is going to be one of a series of 12 pages that are part of my Sparkle and Shine scrapbooking workshop. So because I'm stretching the pattern papers, I always kind of start out a little chintzy and a little frugal because I don't know how much pattern paper I'm going to need to get through all 12 pages. So now I'm happy with the hexagons that I have. I have about 4 of each of the patterns shown. And then I have extra of the cardstock colors. So again, I have pecan pie, white, and garden green for the cardstock colors. So now I'm going to fuss around here, and I really envision just putting those together on points and then having them come under the upper left of the large hexagon star and then coming out the side. The reason I want them to come out the side instead of the bottom is because I want to carry those hexagons over to the right page in some kind of a pattern. I don't know if I'll go all the way down and then back up and then put the 3x4 photos over on the right. So I'm going to play around with it a little bit, and I just kind of want it to look like a trail. And the whole focus of the layout is reduplicating basic shapes to create backgrounds that pop. One thing that I love about really busy patterns and reduplicating shapes is you're using each pattern in a smaller dose. So you have a smaller dose of that bright, busy pattern, and it's broken up between some solid cardstocks and some other patterns that can offset. And so it's really pleasing to the eye because you get to see all of the beautiful patterns. It's really bright. The colors all coordinate. The company makes sure that they have already made the colors coordinate for us. So they've done all the heavy lifting and figuring out all of our coordinating colors. And so when we put these color combinations together, it's typically a win-win. Like you can't go wrong. I have a tendency to really trust the people who've been designing for decades upon decades and upon decades, and I really trust their ability to match the colors for me. So it isn't that I don't sometimes add other colors that match my photos, but I usually have a tendency to just roll with the colors that are in the kit themselves. So now you can see that I've arranged a little bit, not all the way to the top on the right. I started maybe about an inch down on the right, and then I'm envisioning overlapping the photo of Debbie and I in front of the Christmas tree, and then a picture of one of our finished porch pots. Now I do have this cute little guy on my porch right now, and I loved making these. I had never taken a porch pot class before, and I was like, well, what's a porch pot? And now I totally get it. And so they gave us all these different branches and berries and pine cones and sprigs and taught us how to make the bow, and then we got to put the really cute wooden snowman. And don't you think it's funny when you see something and you're like, oh, I could have made that, like the little wooden pieces to make the snowman. It seems so easy, but of course I wouldn't have ever made it, but I always say that to myself, like, oh, I could have made that. So now I'm fussing around and I'm arranging the hexagons. I don't want the hexagons to go all the way down and connect with the other ones. I can kind of see myself maybe doing a little bit of treatment in there, maybe a title in there. So we have this really large green and red Enjoy the Season title. We also have Christmas Cheer Pool Party, and my gut is going toward the pool party. and I'm not quite sure if I want it on the left page or the right page. I'm loving how the hexagons are looking. And I'm not loving just the white photos on the right, and I definitely think they need a landing place. They need some more color under them, and they need maybe some added stripes. But I do think that now that I have the hexagons the way that I like them, that I'm going to pop up the focal hexagon on foam tape so that it stands up and away from the page a little bit. I also like the idea of doing a little bit of distressing in some way, shape, or form. I was originally thinking about distressing each hexagon and bending it up a little bit. I've used that technique before in other hexagon layouts, but I thought about a snow splatter. Like, what do I have in my stash that would make some snow splatter? Now, I did look on the Stampin' Up! Website to see if they had any splatter sprays or gloss sprays, and I didn't find any at this time. I'm sure someone out there watching will probably say something that they have that maybe would work. So just about every company probably has something that would work, but I think I'm going to use some gloss spray. I have some gloss spray left over in my stash. Now I'm just kind of tucking because it seems like once you put your hexagons down a little tighter when you're putting them down for good, it loosens up a little bit of space. So you may need to use little bits and pieces. I'm so sorry about the Band-Aid on my hand. I have been a hazard lately. I burnt my one hand on something in the oven. I cut my hand peeling potatoes. I smashed my hand with a can. I have been so hard on myself. And then I have this old warm ratty fuzzy sweater that I keep putting on, and I forget that I have it on when I'm doing my videos, but it's so cold, you guys. It has been so cold I can't hardly feel my feet. So I'm not like what I used to. I can't take the winter like I used to. So as you can see, I'm letting those hexagons go right over the edge because I will pick the whole thing up when I get done, and I will trim those down, and then I will butt the right page right up next to the left, and these pieces that I'm cutting off, I'm going to salvage those and begin with those pieces on my right companion page. So I'm just going to carry those over. Now I use a D-ring album, so my pages are actually separated from each other, and I don't mind that at all. One of the reasons is I'm usually never very even. I eyeball things, and so I'm not one of those that gets perfectly in line left pages and right pages. In fact, I usually don't lay them side by side directly against each other because I'm probably off. And my paper crafters, I tease them because they make my layouts better than I make my layouts. So I will do the designing, but when they put them together, they are neat as a pin and pristine and even, and they are, wow. I have some pretty incredible paper crafters in my Snips by Kelly paper crafting group, but I'm not so straight. So some people do post-bound, and they do post-bound albums because when you open them up, the two pages are together in the center, and so they're cohesive. Your eye goes all the way across and there's no gap. So I'm creating my page by using those pieces that I cut off from the left directly across on the right, so that if you did put those together, they would fit together perfectly, but mine will be separated in a D-ring, so it won't really matter, but it does still kind of help your eye to go across, without stopping. You can kind of feel the flow of that. So I'm getting all the adhesive on. I'll probably go back and add a little bit more adhesive when I'm all done, but I usually just put a little bit on to kind of get placement. And then if I have to pull some of these back up again, then I will. And actually you're going to see I do have to pull, I think, two of them or rearrange two of them here when I end up putting a couple larger pieces of paper underneath my photos on the right. to make those stand out and pop a little bit. Now, another thing you're going to see here is I'm going to be covering up most of the star hexagon on the left, which may bother some people, which is why a lot of people who do large design elements use smaller photos. They have no problem using odd size photos, using 3x4s, 3x3s, 2.5 by 3.5. They don't have any problem using smaller photos, and I don't either. However, in this particular layout, I really wanted to use a full 4x6 and a 4x4 on the left, which means you're going to cover up quite a bit of that focal element. And I love it that it's just going to be peeking out. But if it bothers you to cover up that much of that pretty star hexagon, change your photo sizes, adjust your photo sizes. Now you can see I have my pencil with my name on it. Oh, I have a coworker who I've worked with for over 30 years, and she makes labels and puts them on my pens and pencils at work because I'm always losing my pens and pencils. So I was laughing when I pulled this out of my scrapbooking bucket because it's my work pencil. So now when I get to work, it won't be there. And so she's forever trying to help me keep track of my pens and my pencils. So anyway, I am taking the top off of the gloss spray, and it really makes a fun snow effect. And I'm just dipping it in the liquid, tapping it on my pencil, and adding that so there's lots of little snow speckles all over the hexagons, and there's actually some snow speckles on the white paper as well. And so it's kind of a little bit of texture that is hard to see on camera, but you can see a little bit of that snow texture, and it's a great way to add snow or to add a snow effect or even just a fun splatter effect. So now I've got all of those hexagons on the right page, all of those hexagons on the left page. Now here is where I'm bringing in some real red, and my final answer is 4.5 by 10.25 because I have three 3x4 photos that each have a 1/4 inch photo mat, so a 3.25 by 4.25 photo mat behind them. And so now I see that because I've added the larger piece, I'm covering up too much of the pretty patterns, and I do want to move a few of those out and down a little ways. So I'm going to pull out a couple of those pieces, but I'm not worried about the paper underneath. I just was manhandling that, and I just ripped it right off. Because it's going to be covered up. I could have used undo or something like that to take it off more gently, but that's why a repositionable tape runner is really, really nice when you're designing. You can always go back in with liquid glue or with a permanent adhesive, but sometimes it's really nice to have a repositionable adhesive when you're designing so that you do have that ability to lift up your pieces and work with them a little bit, because it never fails. You get to the end of your positioning and you're like, oh, I want that up a little bit, or I want to move this a titch this way or a smidge that way, and then you end up tearing. But usually I'm a master at covering up my tears, my boo-boos, my redos. So I've been doing it for years. So now I'm playing around. I'm feeling like I don't really want that extra green one down below. I kind of fuss around and I can't decide. Then, of course, I'm loving these narrow adhesive strips. So Stampin' Up! Has sheets of these narrow adhesive strips. They're great for the edges of shaker windows. They're great for smaller, skinnier little pieces that you need to put foam behind. I also love the mini dimensionals. Now, that is something that I love because I usually use my nonstick micro tip scissors to cut foam. And those mini dimensionals are so great because they're so tiny and they fit behind the tiniest of spaces, as do these strips. And now I'm going to arrange that, and I've popped that up. I do end up here adding some more bits, of course, but right now I just want to get placement over the star hexagon, and I'm really working with these really large punch outs. So as I said, in this particular workshop, there's not a lot of small stickers. There's not a lot of small die cuts or punch outs. Everything is very large, which usually means you need to use a stamp and a die, or you need to use the Cricut, or maybe some other method or means of getting more bits if you're going to stretch your pages. Now, if you're going to create the 3 layouts that came with the workshop kit, or that the workshop kit was designed to make 6 pages, you will have plenty because they've included all that you need inside that scrapbooking workshop kit to create the company's 6-page workshop. But if you're like me and you want to stretch that workshop kit and you want to make 12 pages, then we're going to have to make some more bits along the way somewhere. And so now I'm playing around and I just decide I love that tree, but it's too big. It's just too large. And I thought maybe these cute little deer, we're working with pine, we're outdoor in the, it's called Jolly Lane Floral is where we are, and it's in a big warehouse and there's pine trees all over, and I think the deer fit. Even though we're not outdoor, we're very much doing woodsy things, and I like the deer in the middle. And then when I go to the sticker sheet, I find 2 smaller trees that I think might work over on the left, and I go back and forth about 500 times with the title. Do I want it to fill in the little valley over on the right, or do I like the little valley just the way it is? And so I kind of go back and forth, but I do land on the right page, and I do end up popping that up with foam dimensionals and putting that over on the right page. And I'm getting happier, but there's a couple areas that I feel a little not so happy with. One is I feel like I need a little bit more color balance with the pool party. So now over on the right, I have that long pool party title. And I also have a few little pool party hexagons with that pool party snowflake pattern. I have one on the upper left, one over on the right of the left page, and then I have a couple on the right side of the right page. But I kind of feel like maybe I need a little something over to the left of the primary photo on the left page. It's bugging me, but I'm going to work a little bit on an element of interest in a journal spot. So I'd like to add a little something to the upper left of the right page and just kind of make it look like a hodgepodge or a continuation of some of those hexagons, which gives me an opportunity to use a few of the wonky pieces that are cut and that are just partially left over, and then to add a pop of red up there with the Mary Mary, and to add my journaling up there. It's a little bit more of a unique spot instead of adding, say, maybe journal strips to the right of the large photo on the left, instead of being able to add that extra 4x4 photo. But I really want that 4x4 photo of my cute little porch pot. I love it so much. I hope it lasts. Debbie, my friend Debbie here, she's such a fun person to do things with, and she made porch pots at the same place last year, and she said hers lasted well into the end of January. And you do water it a little bit, even though the branches are cut, you water it, and then when it freezes, you don't have to water it anymore. So I'm a plant killer. Even though I live on a farm and a ranch, I kill everything. I even kill cactus. I am a horrible black thumb. My mother was a master gardener. She had a garden the size of a football field, and she canned and froze, and she was amazing, and I did not get any of her skill whatsoever. And I pursued a heavy-duty career as a speech pathologist, and I just didn't learn how to do a lot of those things until later in life, when it's too late, it becomes important to you. And so I do my own jellies and I have made salsas and things like that, but I'm a plant killer. I'm just going to tell you that. I love them, but people give them to me and I feel so much pressure. So I don't know if you caught what I just did, but I was being chintzy again, and I didn't want to use the whole stripe sticker from the sticker sheet, but I really feel like we need a little something something on the top of the photo strip. So I took the negative space from around the sticker, the throwaway part, and I made a little strip where it has green on the bottom and the stripe on the top. Now I'm cutting some more larger stickers into smaller pieces to create some little banner pieces to get a little bit of height over there. And I'm not exactly happy. I think I need even more height. And then I also need color balance. I need some pool party to the left. And I also feel to the left of the star hexagon is just sort of like it chunks off. It needs a round element to soften everything up. So I pulled out one of the Spotlight on Nature circles. It's about a 3.5-inch circle. I'm just going to roughly cut that in half. There, oh my word, it's so crazy how just that little tiny circle helps so much. So I'm going to put the other half underneath the little banners, and what we do to one side, we want to do to the other and have some elements that cross over to both pages, and it just gives us balance and we don't even know why. And then I love those Spotlight on Nature dies. You could also use like Nested Essentials. You could use some of those good old investment sets, and any circle that you have is great. And I'm getting happy. I'm getting so much happier and I love it. Gotta add those peppermints. We gotta be festive. Ho, ho, ho. And so I'm adding a few little peppermints onto a couple of the white hexagons and adding some little elements of 3, a small, a medium, and a large in different spots. And I'm getting happy. It's so festive. It's so fun. It's much more balanced. And I hope you enjoyed today's video and that you will reduplicate shapes in the backgrounds to make your layouts pop. It's a great way to break apart busy patterns. It's a great way to showcase all the patterns on one page, and it's really a fun way to add different shapes and interest to your pages. Thank you so much for hanging with me, and stay tuned for the rest of the 12-page Sparkle and Shine Reindeer Memories Workshop Kit. Hit like, subscribe, the notifications bell, and shoot me a comment and let me know what you thought about today's layout. Happy scrapping, everyone. Stay tuned right here for more on Snips by Kelly.